No matter where you are in the United States right now or in the Northern Hemisphere, it's really, really hot. And a lot of reenactors in the SCA, like myself, love to wear Imperial Roman clothing to try and find a way to beat the heat a little bit. It gives you lots of layers, and sometimes for those layers, we need some beautiful accessories. I'm going to be working on a beaded necklace with glass to replace the idea of coral from the Mediterranean and some earrings. These are based off of the Fayum mummies that are from Roman controlled Egypt, roughly after the death of Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh from ancient Egypt. The Roman Empire did control the region for quite some time. And as part of that, there was a mishmash of some of the cultural pieces with Roman well to do people actually being mummified in some of the more Egyptian funerary traditions, which is where these mummies come from. But they've got some really cool paintings with color of the people that are being buried in different details. So I thought I'd give them a try. I love that you get to see the vibrant colors of the ancient world on these panel paintings. And you don't get to see that everywhere because it just didn't survive. To do this necklace, I wanted to do a multi-strand necklace without driving myself insane with wrapping a long strand of beads around my neck a lot. So instead, what I'm opting to do is use these spacers that I picked up over at Joann Fabrics and let the spacer bar in the back create the tiered effect for my beads. I'm also opting to use modern beading wire and crimp beads just to give it some durability. I have some awesome kids in my world that I love to be around. And if someone gets a little bit grabby with my cool jewelry, I want to make sure that it survives that experience. In case you've never used crimp beads before, just as a heads up, they're these bendable little metal beads that you're going to use some pliers to crush down around the wire. And when you crush the crimp bead, it actually solidifies and almost creates a knot for metal so that the beading wire can't slide around without being cut. So it makes for a really secure way to create a necklace and to keep things from sliding. I've had a couple of them fail, but usually that's because I didn't pinch them down very well, or the necklace has just gotten so old that the wire it was actually suspended from was starting to give out and stretch and do other weird things. There's a lot of historical costuming that is going to involve red coral from the Mediterranean Sea, and it's actually been farmed and harvested for jewelry and other items to an extent that it's becoming a little bit endangered on some in some places. It's generally best to go and look for coral that's been ethically harvested. You can get coral dyed if you're really wanting the real thing, but these beads, with their slightly organic shapes, are honestly giving a pretty good approximation for the historical coral beads that I would have been looking for. During ancient times through until the Enlightenment, and in some places after that, coral was believed to help protect infants and protect women who might be in childbirth or having labors, reproductive health, that sort of thing. One of the myths that I was able to find when I was doing a little deep dive into coral last summer is the myth that it came from the droplets of blood from Medusa when she was slain by Perseus. I, I obviously think that it was something that evolved over time scientifically, but I thought it was a really cool bit of information to have about where it came from and what the ancient world might have thought about this. I've known some people when they're making necklaces like this to use a necklace making board, which kind of gives them the length that they were wanting everything to go around so it's uniform and even and pretty. And I don't own one. So I just cut a couple of lengths of wire to roughly go around my neck, maybe give me a little bit of extra room in case I decide to use this as a hair ornament or something later. So, what that means is that there's no fancy measuring board or anything. I'm just going until I get to a length that I like, and then I'm going to crimp bead that off onto the other side of my brackets. Doing the fancy multi-strand brackets like this does take just a little bit of extra forethought because you want to make sure that you're not getting something lined up on the wrong set of the brackets, or on the wrong hole. So just something to be aware of. It's not the end of the world if you end up doing something where it's on the wrong loop. You just might want to clip it and maybe make the necklace about an inch shorter while you get that corrected. I thankfully didn't have to do that this time, so once my bead was crimped and I had one strand, I was able to secure my next strand onto my next loop of my little bars and start threading on yet more beads. It makes life way easier for me to just be able to thread this onto a wire. There's no special beading needles or things like that involved on this project. If you're new to jewelry making or beading, this is honestly a super easy project and would be a great place for you to start. Wouldn't you know it, once I start getting more than one strand done, it actually starts to look like something out of one of my jewelry textbooks. And it starts to almost look like a thing. I love this necklace, and it I debated only doing 2 strands, but really it does need the 3. It looks much more complete with all 3 strands. If I'd have really taken my time, I might have actually tried to do 6 and doubled the strings around one side of each of those loops. But 3 still is good. It looks beautiful. If this video is being super helpful for you and giving you some inspiration to try and accessorize your own ancient Roman kit, I would love to hear about it in the comments section. Go ahead and leave me a little note about what your next ancient Roman project is going to be for your historical costuming. If you love to make jewelry and want to give this a go, or just generally to say hi. It would also mean a lot if you wanted to click the like button, and if you want to see more historical costume adventures, go ahead and subscribe. I do try to post here fairly frequently and would love to have you along for the ride. One thing that is actually just a little bit finicky when I'm getting these bead strands put into place is making sure that I tension the ends correctly and get the little bits of the beading wire tucked in enough that it has some tension on it and it's not going to pop out on me, and then making sure that I clip off that excess. I don't want to just leave the thread hanging around like that because it will eventually start to get pokey around my neck. One of the last things I need to do to make this necklace wearable is to add some closures. Hooks and loops were actually a really common way in ancient Rome to close necklaces. So that was the option I took. These are just some really simple hook and loop options that I got at the local hobby store. And I can use my pliers to open up just a little bit and be able to attach it to my spacer bars. It creates a really clean, easy finish for that side, but the loop section ended up giving me a little bit more grief. I wanted to originally see about maybe putting the hook through the loop bar, but the end was a little bit too big, and I didn't want to cut it and have to file all of that sort of thing. Luckily, I have some jump rings, and it came with a little magic 8 sort of situation that it is designed to hook into. So I used one of my little jump rings, opened it up with a plier, slid on the closure bit, and then used another set of pliers to help me tension that ring shut. And with that, my necklace is complete. I can close it, I can put it around my neck, I can also wear it in my hair. I decided after trying it on a few times that I really preferred to have the hook a little more closed. So I went through and pinched the hook shut just a bit, and it was so much easier to wear. Are you going to make one of these projects? I personally love it, and I wear it all the time with my ancient Roman kit. One of the other really cool things that these mummies have frequently for women is going to be these drop earrings with a bar and multiple pearls dropping off of it. Some of them have longer metal strands for the pearls to drop on, some of them are shorter. I opted to kind of try something that was a little bit shorter and use the rest of the spacer bar packet that I have for the necklace. And it made it so I didn't have to try and fold wire in some more exotic ways or try to cast something myself when I was just trying to make a quick pair of earrings. To make these earrings, I decided I was going to drape pearls on these little head pins that you can get in large quantities at a jewelry making supply or craft store. I threaded some freshwater pearls in little seed pearl form. I think they're roughly 4 millimeters, which seemed kind of similar to what the proportions were on some of the paintings. The head pin specifically has a little flattened out piece at the end that keeps the pearl from sliding off without me having to do anything extra to the wire. From there, I just pull it onto my little end piece here. I kind of fold it into the length that I want, and I'm just going to twist the end of my head pin around to create a shank, like I'm making a shank button. Not every one of these little dangling pearls on a head pin went as smoothly as I wanted. I did cut a couple of them off and start over with some wire cutters. If you have to do that as well, just be careful not to cut through the loop of your finding and stick to just cutting the wire that the pearl is attached to. I tried a couple different ways of wrapping the top of the head pin with the extra wire after it was folded through the loop on my bars. Alternatively, I held it with my fingers and wrapped with the pliers a few times. I also tried holding with my pliers and then just using my fingers to bend the wire. Both worked and didn't work in different ways. I think it's going to be a little bit of experiment and figure out what works best for you. The thing that consistently worked easiest for me with this particular style was to create these really sharp angles and do a pre-fold on that first bend before I started trying to wrap the rest of the wire around the pearl base. So I can give you that as my little bit of recommendation if you're going to try and make your earrings in a similar way. I decided it was actually easier to start with the beads on either side of the bar and attach the two end pieces first and then come back and do the middle. because that let the beads kind of fall off the edges and I could hold them still a little more easily with the pliers. When I waited and did them all in each consecutive order, they tended to fight each other a bit more as I was trying to attach the pearls. As wire working and jewelry making projects go, the earrings are also a pretty easy place to start if you're new to jewelry making. It's going to give you enough skills that you'll feel accomplished, like you've learned something and you've tried something new, but at the same time, they're not skills that are beyond the basic wire worker or jewelry maker. I am not great when it comes to working with wire, but even I was able to get these cute little dangly bits to do what I wanted them to do to decent effect. I love the movement that you get when you're wearing this set of earrings so much that I made my friend a pair too and gave them to her last summer. From what I can tell in ancient Rome, hooks like the hooks I'm holding in my hand here from the craft store were also a pretty common way of taking care of your earrings and getting them to suspend. So you might do a loop, but you could also just do some of these hooks. I ended up needing to slide it over the tip of the wire that goes through my ear and then go back to pinch it shut because the little ball that they installed on the end was just slightly too big to fit through that loop on top of my bars. It's not the worst thing in the world, but when you're threading these onto your hooks this way, make sure that you take a little extra time to verify everything is sitting in the direction you want. I used gold plated over silver ear wires because I do have some metal sensitivities. It doesn't bother me as much for the little bits that are hanging away from my body, but for the piece of the earring that goes through my ear, I really wanted to make sure that I had something I wouldn't react to. I've been living in these earrings and this necklace at camping events all summer, mixing and matching them with some of my other jewelry and with different looks I have from the ancient Roman and Imperial Roman periods. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you next time. Bye.